Hey guys and gals, Jim here, and today is the day back in 1969, 50 years ago. Today's the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11, the start of the mission to the moon, landing man on the moon. So, as I'm building this AMT man in space kit, I decided to do the Saturn V first and include some facts about the mission and all that kind of stuff. And I went ahead and slapped together that cardboard fold-out launch tower, which is it's okay for display for doing this video and stuff. If you notice, it's way smaller than the rocket at the base, the platform itself and stuff. You know, the rocket, all that color detail, and there should be way out underneath the thrusters, the engines and stuff. But for doing this video and just for looks and stuff, it's okay, but I'll probably not going to be using it. Once I get all the rockets to this set completed eventually in the next few months, I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to mount all the rockets permanently on a wooden base and everything because I'm including the 200 scale shuttle and everything, but I thought I'd include include it for this video mainly and stuff like that too. I mean, if you want to use it, it's not bad, but it's not nowhere near accurate or nothing like that. So, but anyway, this is my AMT 1/200 scale man in space Apollo Saturn V. It doesn't represent any particular Apollo mission. It's just the Saturn V and all that. There's a lot of inaccuracies in it. There's a lot of issues with it and everything. But it makes for a decent display if you take the time, mainly the seams and the paintwork and everything. But let's go into a little bit about the mission and everything. So today was the start of the mission to the moon, the 50th anniversary. Actually, the start of this whole deal was way back in '62 when Kennedy said he wanted to land on the moon by the end of the decade. So that's actually when it started and everything. But I'm going to get rid of this tower now, and we're going to go through some things and stuff. So, like I says, it's a halfway decent display, but not the greatest. So anyway, the Saturn V, it's made up of stages. The one thing bad about this model, the parts, they're supposed to be friction fit. They fit so loosely together that if you bump the table that you got it sitting on or a shelf or something, it's just going to topple and everything's going to go scattering all over like knocking down a house of cards. So being that I don't play with my models, once I build them, I'm not going to be taking them apart and putting them back together and separating things. This one's all glued together. I do have another set that I plan on down the line sometime in the future. I'm going to build each stage separately and probably do like a little display like they do at the National Space Museum and stuff, where they got the Apollo displayed in stages, one after another, laying down, sideways and stuff. So I might do a display with it, something like that. But for now, I just thought I'd do my model and stuff. I did all the masking just with my Scotch Blue painter's tape. One thing, there's a lot of corrugated areas on there, so you really got to make sure you burnish it down. I just gave it a coat of light gray primer and everything. I did each stage. Parts of them were glued together, other ones weren't and stuff. But I just made sure I burnished it down. I just, like I said, I gave it a coat of light gray primer. And then I use rattle cans Rust-Oleum. I use a satin white and a satin black. And I did the white first. A lot of people I see they paint the black first, then they paint the white. To me, it's easier to see where you're masking on white than it is on black. So, but I didn't get any bleed through under the tape or nothing, so I didn't have to do any type of touch up whatsoever. The seam works are atrocious. The seams on these models are atrocious. I mean, you could see a little bit there. I did the best I could to blend it and all that. So, they're not too bad. I'm happy. It is what it is, But anyway, it's made up of 3 stages. The first stage, of course, it comes up to that point there. Then you got this is called this. There's a ring here. It's called the instrument ring. It's basically got all the instrumentation for the first stage rockets, to ignite and shut off, start off the second stage, and then you got your second stage from this point up to there, and that. And I'm gonna bring something up. All the models on the market, they've got that staggered pattern with the black and white. They've got it just the way I've got it there, and everything. And I noticed watching some videos of actual Apollos, some of them were painted differently, where it went around the opposite direction and stuff. But I went along with most of the pictures I seen in the different model builds and stuff like that. So I went that route and everything. A lot of this detail on the side, these raised surfaces, different parts, vents and stuff like that. They're not accurate. They're close. Like I said, this was a model that was originally released back in 68 or 69. So there's going to be a lot of inaccuracies, especially with the technology they had back then. So then you got your third stage from this point on up. You got your service module, your command module, your escape tower. Something interesting about the Saturn V before launch. There were a bunch of arms came from the umbilical tower, which is your launch tower, but several arms, that was your fueling. They were fueling the stages up to the last minute and stuff, pressurizing things like that. That's what all those different connection arms were. And if you notice, when it started lifting off, when the engines fired up about 9 seconds before liftoff, you noticed there was like sockets. They were pulling out of sockets on the side and then swinging out of the way so it could clear the tower and everything. There's one that was connected. It was called the white room, the one with the white box on the end with the arm coming out. That was actually the room where the astronauts, got strapped into the capsule and everything. The workers were up there to help them get in and situated and stuff. And before that arm swung out of the way, once the engine started, it stayed there for so many seconds in case there was a problem. You could say NASA was almost the inventor of the zip line. They had a big long zip line before it even lifted off. If there was a problem, before it lifted off, the astronauts could pop out of the capsule and they could zip the zip line down. It carried them several hundred yards away. And then they were plucked up by a rescue vehicle and stuff like that to get them out of harm's way and stuff, because they only let spectators and even the press people. The nearest you could get to the launch site was 3 miles, because if this thing exploded, that was pretty much the safe zone where you wouldn't get hurt by anything and stuff. Then at the top is a launch escape tower, and that was there after they got rid of the first stage. The engine shut down. They jettisoned the first stage. The launch escape tower be gotten rid of, because they felt at that point, if anything went wrong, that was pretty much the point that they were worried about. So anyway, once they got into the flight, when they got up to about 45 miles altitude and all that, we're going to turn it sideways. I'm going to grab it here and there. Once they got about 45 miles altitude, the first stage was gotten rid of. And that, so all that was left was that air portion. Then they got rid of that instrument ring, and then the second stage. Once they got to 110 miles altitude, they got rid of that entire second stage. So all they'd have left is that there. And then that third stage, they would after a couple minutes, they would fire that third stage for a few minutes, and that'd get them into Earth orbit. And then they'd orbit the Earth for, I think, 3 or 4 revolutions, orbit around the Earth, before they'd fire it up a second time, which was one of the most crucial things. A lot of these engines, they didn't test on the ground, because if they did, they were only like a one-time use. So they'd have to build a new one. But they'd fire it up a second time for about 6 minutes, and that would put them on their trajectory to the moon. Now, I've seen some videos where I saw a video a couple of weeks back. A guy was building like a regular rocket that you could actually launch, your field somewhere and stuff of the Apollo. But they would get rid of that third stage, and they would that put them on their course smooth. They got rid of that third stage, and that stayed behind it. Eventually, the first stage and second stage fell back into the Atlantic, and they'd eventually be picked up and set on barges and brought back for rebuilds. But the third stage, what would happen? It just fall back in the atmosphere and pretty much burn up and everything. But the one gentleman in his video said that the third stage took him all the way to the moon, which it didn't, and it would be jettisoned and then it would crash into the surface of the moon. I've never heard of that story before and stuff. And any kind of program, if you guys are interested in the Apollo program or anything like that, you'll always hear them talking about, you know, the third stage gets jettisoned, you know, outside in the Earth orbit, and it eventually just falls through the atmosphere and burns up and everything. You know, there's no protective heat shields on it or anything like that. So, but anyway, like I said, I glued it together because the parts, they're supposed to be friction fit, the different sections of stages. They're so loose fitting, if you went and just tapped the tabletop, it'd wobble and everything would fall apart. So being that this is going to be a stack display along with the rest of the rockets, and the other rockets aren't much better. I mean, the capsule just set them. They don't really, you know, fit in like a friction fitted. They just pretty much rest on top of everything. So it's a pretty flimsy, you know, wobbly model and stuff and all that. What I did when I'm going to mount them all, once I finished up the whole set, you can see there, I drilled a hole and I inserted a brass tube that runs the length of the first stage, and then in my base I'll put a smaller tube that it'll sit on, and that'll keep it from tipping over and everything and all that. If I want to remove it, I can still remove it, but at least if I pick up the whole set, that you know, they'll all be pretty stable and everything if I want to move it around in that. And then I'm going to include the 200 Hasegawa scale, the Hasegawa 1/200 scale space shuttle with the booster and external tank and everything, which you saw I was experiment with the craft paint, the cheap 50-cent bottles and everything the other day. So you see that. But this is the day that the mission started out. They launched this morning, and it's took about 4 hours to get them situated into the Earth orbit and everything. So that's that. And then it took another 3 days before they finally got to the moon. It was a 3-day journey, 240,000 miles away. So, but the rocket itself, that was 363 feet tall. So you can imagine longer than the football field if you laid it down on its side. So that's pretty much it. That's my model. You know, the decals, they're pretty much just basic. I mean, you get your little markings for down here on the first stage. Your little, whatever the different letters mean, you know, A, B, C, D. I know there's a fifth engine, so I don't think they stand for engines or something. But you get those, you get flags, your USA, your United States up there. I pretty much just measured off and put a real faint little mark under each one of these flags so I could make sure they were all the same height all the way around. And that those were pretty easy because you got the rib areas above and below. Now I've seen also some models, I think Airfix did on their paint directions. They had a black band that connected to these black vertical stripes here. I think on theirs they had a black band that went around. That's way incorrect. None of the Saturn V's were painted up with that black band like that. No, so they're supposed to be, you know, they just go up so high, then they start up here, then they got a black band around there, then you got that what I call the checker flag pattern sort of deal. You know, and basically what they painted these black areas like that, the reason it's like that is when this ship is rising in altitude, there's several times where it actually rolls and stuff like that. So that's actually like markings so they could make sure that it's rolling properly and stuff. And you know, this is just a solid band that went all the way around the mid portion of the third stage. And then of course inside of here, the cone shaped area up here, those are the 4 panels that blew off and eventually exposed the lunar module that landed on the moon and everything. So go into that in the next video and everything, but I want to keep these videos a little bit on the short side because they're easier to upload, and I don't want to get carried away and run out of time and have to keep doing them in several different parts and everything. I figure I'm just going to do one part on different stages of the space of the mission and stuff like that. So for now, that's it. I tried to do a little bit more detail on there on the side of the command module. They actually had like little retro rockets and stuff, and you know, for kind of when they're coming back in for re-entry, they can kind of get the capsule at the right angle so they don't burn up and everything. So I tried to get some of that, but this is a pretty small model. Now if you want a better model, of a Saturn V. It's got inaccuracies with the two of the second stage engines. This kit has better, like I said, I'll build the stages separately with the other kit that I got. I'll do them separate and keep them that way so you see the detail of second stage engines and the tops of the fuel tanks and stuff like that. More detail, but the Revell 1/44 scale, if you want something that you can take apart and show off and put back together, you're better off with that kit, even though the second stage engines are like way toy-like looking. You're better off with that because that's the stages actually interlock and you can pick up the whole model. It's not going to fall apart. But like I said, some of these parts were so loose fitting, and I'm not gonna, for something like this, I want to do a static display showing the different sizes of all the different you know, rockets from that, you know, took man into space from the beginning till you know, till whenever, till the space shuttle days. I just plan on doing them static models and everything and stuff like that. And like I said, when I build a model, it's not like I'm going to be taking apart, playing with it and stuff like that. It's just going to be a display to show the different sizes more than everything. But other than that, that's my model. I know stuff like this is hard to film. You know, maybe we'll lay it down on the side or something. But other than that, you know, that's my Saturn V, the AMT Man in Space. It's not a bad model. You know, it is what it is. I mean, if you want a real good model, you're probably better going off with the Dragon, the 1/72 model. It stands about 5 feet tall, but you're talking a few $100s at least, if not more, and stuff. And those are hard to come by these days. I know a lot of websites. I see different hobby websites. They're unavailable and stuff. So you know, you can probably find them on eBay, but you're going to pay a whole of a hell lot more. Revell repopped their 1/96 scale one. That's kind of a weird kit because it's basically got your bottom ring, your top ring for each stage, and the whole center part is basically like sheet styrene that's already pad printed with your black stripes and everything, and your flags and all that. And each stage is built like that. It's got a lot of nice detail, but then it's got a clear window here so you can see the lunar module. It's got a clear window, I think, on the service module so you can see the internal tanks and stuff like that. But it's not a bad kit, you know. But that one, I think that one stands about 4 feet. This one, the AMT model measures 21.5 inches roughly when it's finished, all put together, which isn't a bad size compared to the 1/44 scale, which I think about 31 inches long. So you're about 10 inches shorter. But the nice thing, it doesn't take up as much space. If you go with the 1/44th one, they do make a 1/44th space shuttle with the external tank and booster rockets. I think that one's about 17, 18 inches tall, compared to the 1/200 one that I'm going to be building to go on this, which is about 11.5 inches. So, you know, it depends if you got space. Go with the bigger one, you know. If you don't, then go with this one and everything. So, but like I said, I just like this AMT set. It's, like I said, it's not 100% accurate. It's nowhere near accurate, but it makes for a nice display because you could do the Mercury Redstone, the Mercury Atlas, and Gemini Titan, and the Saturn SB1, which is, I just got it base coated and everything, but you can tell the difference in size. It's about half the size of the Saturn V. So, but those were the original Apollos where they, you know, start sending man to the moon and stuff. Those were the ones that they were doing all the testing with, as far as learning how to do rendezvous and stuff like that to, you know, pick out the lunar module and stuff like that, testing different things. It was a lot smaller, but it was a stepping stone in their test bed still. So, anyway, that's all for this one. So we'll be seeing you guys soon with the next video, and hope you guys enjoy this. Sorry that you know, the model doesn't come apart, but like I said, if you want something to come apart, go with the Revell 1/44 scale. This pretty much needs to be together to keep it standing and keep it from falling apart and getting all broken to pieces. So we'll be seeing you guys soon. Have a good one. Take care. Bye.